Welcome back to another episode, 14 weeks now of the Proper Gentleman's Club. And today is about something that I learned over the weekend. I was going to go a different direction with this, but it seems that this is the most pertinent thing that I need to talk about. And that is, there is so much information out there about getting into your mind, getting into your subconscious mind, getting into your mind, think it first, and your brain can't distinguish reality from fantasy, and all of those things are true. But the most interesting thing about all of this is, in the last 20 years of being on social media, you can almost look at media as a mental thing, right? It's not a real thing, like a real thing that you can touch. You can only touch it through your phone. And in that sense, we have become more feminine as a society. And here's why I say this. And you'll see where I'm going here in a second. Because this episode is actually about men leaning back into their masculinity. I posted a video on my TikTok, and this short posted yesterday. But we have been doing all this conversing and talking and thinking and mediating and all those things, everything but action, through social media. That's what it's pushed us to. This is where women found their voice. And women in the feminine, it is very much an internal thing. And that internal thing is to think, to want, to desire, to create. Those are all internal properties. The masculine is a lot of action, a lot of doing, the planning, the execution, action, right? And for me, and this is something that I discovered within myself. So, and this is how it happened. The fight was coming up, and you'll see where I'm going with this, hopefully. Jones versus Stipe. And it's not that I ever doubted Jones. Here's what happened. I thought that, and I let me just keep trying to say this because there's so many thoughts, and I wanted to do this very raw and not written or planned or plotted. Between Trump, between P. Diddy, between the Harvey Weinstein, Jeff Epstein, everything that we've been shown as good and bad. And these people are not really getting true justice dealt to them, right? Like Trump can get indicted on and convicted of 34 felony counts and still be president, right? We think that's not right. That shouldn't be. The shouldn't be is a fantasy. It's not reality. And the Jones versus Stipe fight taught me something very big, because I put just a little bit of money on Stipe, thinking that Stipe the good guy, Stipe the hero. Heroes have been portrayed to us as people who save the world. They're people who uphold the status quo, is what heroes are. The opposite of heroes, villains. These people are tired of the status quo and decide to take matters into their own hands, typically by destroying the status quo, which we see as bad. It's always portrayed as a bad thing to destroy the status quo. I decided in myself that it was Jones's time, that it was his time. And what I discovered was, it doesn't matter what I think or how I feel about any given situation. It doesn't matter the justice that I think should be doled out by the universe. It doesn't matter that I think ethics and morals play a role in the justice that gets delivered, the karma that must come back to people. It doesn't matter whether someone's done you wrong or right and they've got something coming to them. It doesn't matter that you think that. The world that we build up in our head is a fantasy world because there is what is now, and then there's what's in our head. I believed that not because of Jones's absolute greatness, right? But because of his shenanigans, which actually were pretty much in the past. He hasn't done anything recently. But I had held this against him. And this is what we do. We hold these things against people, regardless of who they are. And we decide that payback must come because of this or that. Ethics, morals, virtue signaling, ethics, morals, woke, this, that, bad person, good person, oh. And you know what that is? That's all feminine energy. The thinking, the ethics, the morals, the be good, that's all feminine energy because action is masculine. And the social media thing dragged us into this feedback loop of good and bad, ethics and morals, save this, save that. Oh, even with the COVID thing, right? The shame that people were bringing on other people, the public coercion, the social media coercion, that's all feminine. To influence is feminine. To influence is feminine. It's what Eve did to Adam. She influenced Adam. It's what Delilah did to Samson. They broke them down through constant influencing. They broke them down. And the stories go on of men being influenced by women and being broken down. And this is the difference between the good women and the bad women, because the good woman supports. Think the wife of King Leonidas in 300, when he was going to make a decision regardless. He didn't have time. He didn't tell the messenger, hey, let me get a couple of days. I got to go meet with my wife and make sure she's cool with everything that I'm about to do, which is what men do now. Happy wife, happy life. And so we converse and we are influenced to make a decision by an energy that is constantly wanting, desiring to create. King Leonidas only looked back at his wife to get her approval or disapproval. We don't know what would have happened if she had said, maybe he would have just let the messenger go, right? But even then, that's influence, the feminine influence. He looked at her, she nodded. This is Sparta, and we know how this goes. You want the point. The point is that John Jones came out and beat Stipe so badly, the greatest of all heavyweights, that there was no doubt. Here's the deal for me. If there had been any doubt, if Stipe had actually come close, I would have received a moral victory and would have thought my bet was justified. I was not justified to think that he deserved this or that. John Jones came and took what was his. Pure masculine energy. To go and take, to do. Now, this has nothing to do, for any women who are listening, this has nothing to do with good or bad. ethics and morals. This has nothing to do with that right now, which is so easy for the feminine to get into. They pull it away from the action, from the doing, and they take it to their thoughts about said individual. This is not about that. This is about pure action. Jones was better prepared. He was more skilled, more talented. His fight IQ, which everyone is talking about, the weapons that he had at his disposal. There's so many things that were reasons for him to be able to take that. There was no thinking, the ethics and morals, oh, he should be in jail, this and that. Well, he's not. Trump's not. We decide who we're going to go after through social media, and then we attack them, and then the justice system does what it's going to do. And we say in our heads, and this is where I really want to get into it, we decide in our heads what should or should not be instead of accepting reality. To not accept reality is to live in delusion. It's a fantasy world created by your brain to try to protect itself because you refuse to accept what is. That also goes into line with the I am. I am. What are you? And a lot of us get into the that law of attraction stuff, which is true, your vibration, but you have to do those things, which leads us to our next point. Ayn Rand, in the book, The Virtue of Selfishness, which I've talked about before, one of the great pleasures in life for man to experience is pride. And I'm not sure what that looks like for women to have pride in something, but it's probably pride in creating. Men have pride in doing, our character development, our achievement. In doing, we gain a sense of self. I am because I did. And in doing, we vibrate at that energy of I am. You can't speak that into existence if you're not doing. I don't care what anybody says, especially as men. That may work for women because they have the internal capabilities to create from within. Men have to go out and do. We can positively affirm, but we have to act on those affirmations to receive that sense of pride, self-esteem, and achievement. For us as men, that sense of pride and achievement allows us to set our values. Our values are what allow us to vibrate at an energy which attracts other people who reflect our deepest values. You can only get there by doing. And so, if one is not accepting reality and living in fantasy, one is essentially living in the feminine, to be internal. When a man leans into his feminine, he's prone to mistakes, he's prone to being emotional, he's prone to being illogical, irrational, and he fails. When a man leans into his masculinity, he can then be logical, rational, and make a decision and act accordingly. Where we've fallen as men is the social media caused us to think and to think irrationally. And I say this because social media isn't reality. Reality is out here where we can act and do. Social media made us men more feminine. And that's not to say that we can't be masculine and interact. It's to understand that to be on social media, you must be conscious. Conscious of your thoughts. And this is why the attention and focus on what we're looking at on social media is so important, because that focused attention is the knife of action. And if you're focused on these women and you're focused on what they're saying and what they're telling you that they want, you won't be in your masculine. The absolute epitome of masculinity is to ignore what everyone else is saying and doing, especially when it comes to you. If you can get away from caring about what other people, like John Jones didn't care what I had to think or say about his activities. They didn't matter. Trump doesn't care about what we have to say about his activities. And here's the deal. The first thing that people want to do is virtue signal out of this. Well, it shouldn't be. It is. To live in delusion is to not accept reality. A man accepts reality and acts on it. Now, here's where the villain thing comes in. Here's where you step into your power. We're not upholding the status quo as men individually. To change your own status quo, you must be tired of your status quo. Choose a plan. Act on the plan. Rinse and repeat. That's it. This whole thinking, feeling, all of that has to go. And I think for me, what happened was when I had all my feelings in this, I'm going to put money on it because I believe this, I convinced myself of something that was never going to be true. I bet against Vegas. People say, well, that's where fortunes are made. Here's the deal. Fortunes are made only 20% of the time. The other 80% of the time, Vegas is right. What does that tell you? Because it's logistics. Because it's being rational. Irrational is to believe in the less possible. Now, that's not saying that, for instance, I thought Kevin Garnett just now when he was screaming anything is possible when they won, because anything is possible. But there was action. There was action. Action. They went out and did it. Now, they could only believe in themselves because they had actions to go on, consistent action after action after action. And the more you believe in yourself, the more you're going to do based on those beliefs. That is to be in the pure masculine. For him to believe and to not fully act is the feminine. And the irrational feminine is to live in delusion. And we guys really got caught up in that. And so that's where I'll end this today with the, what do they call it? The exhortation to act on those still small thoughts that tell you exactly which direction to go. To act on those things that will take you closer to your goals, because your goals as men, and this is where we get caught up. They have all the statements. They have all the phrases. Oh, it's progress, not perfection. No, for us men, we must progress. We must put 100% effort, which is perfection, into our actions to move forward, because that's what gives us the real sense of pride, achievement, character development, which creates the self-esteem, which creates the vibration that attracts those things to us. And if we can't act in that way perfectly, 100% effort, we can't ever become true men. Have a great one.